Craig, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate your time.
No worries. It's a pleasure.
We're hoping we can take 18 years of experience and compress it into one article and a video. So we're going to try our best. So let me start off with, if you don't mind, if you could tell us about yourself, where you're from, what you do, how you got into the business, and any services that you provide.
So my name's Craig Campbell. I'm based in Glasgow, which is in Scotland in the UK, up the north end of the UK. I've been in this industry for 18 years now and started out the same as everyone else, just didn't really know what the hell I was doing. I fancied myself as a web designer of all things, and found out I was really not good at it. And just started to do a bit of research, and this was in the early 2000s, and I found forums and stuff which were talking about visibility of websites and whatnot, and started to dabble a bit in that, and again just blagging it as I was going, just trying out my own website and stuff like that, and started to really enjoy it, and from there I very quickly found myself with a sales guy, a content writer, and it was just like just the way things happen. I never had any real ambitions or goals, but I ended up owning an agency. I just found myself in that position after hiring a bunch of people, and I'm like, geez, we've got all these clients, all these overhead staff, and I ran an agency for about 9 years, and decided it really wasn't for me. I didn't really set out to be some big business owner managing people and clients and all that kind of garbage that goes alongside that, and tried to pivot towards what other guys were doing, Woodward and various other guys making money through affiliate, and that seemed to be something that really piqued my interest, and started to go down that rabbit hole and doing a lot more affiliate marketing, and that's something I still do to this day. I regularly buy and sell websites, just changing the monetization methods of them, scaling them up, using what I've learned over the years to be able to hit the ground running with a lot of these websites. And, alongside doing that, I do a lot of training and consultancy. So that's pretty much where I've ended up at. Decided, as I say, after 9 years of dealing with clients, people not paying, the whole client asking you every single thing, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? It just becomes a bit tedious after a period of time. And for me, I just think when you, after that long doing it as an agency and probably 3 or 4 years as a freelancer, I decided that I had enough experience to just start making my own money online. And, why would I ever consider making someone else a millionaire? It just doesn't make sense. If you've kind of got the ability to do that, why wouldn't you do it for yourself? Is what I would ask myself. And from there, as I say, just been focusing on that and done relatively well since I've been doing that, and still thoroughly enjoying it. So that's where I'm at just now.
I imagine there's a lot more freedom in that lifestyle as well, as opposed to running an agency.
Yeah,
the time is your own.
Yeah, exactly. The freedom aspect, I can literally work anywhere I want in the world, go on holiday for a month while still working out, if I'm outsourcing bits of the job, whatever it might be, or just delegating tasks to my team, then, I'm able to get that work-life balance that I think many guys, including myself, who start out in the industry, you end up doing 16, 18-hour days and become very, very stressed at the start of your career in this industry. And I see it happen with a lot of people. And obviously, there's only so long you can tolerate that before your mental health or even your physical health starts to crumble. So I think you have to work towards getting that work-life balance. I know you've got to put that hard graft and effort in at the start of running any business, but yeah, the freedom was always what I was wanting. That was the goal, just like get the easy money. Although there's no such thing as easy money, but easier money. So yeah.
Has COVID-19 affected your industry much? Affected the industry?
I mean, yes and no for a lot of people. Personally, I didn't have any websites in like the travel niche or anything that was severely impacted by COVID-19. So for me, in terms of training, consultancy, still doing affiliate and stuff, I've probably been busier than ever, which is very, very fortunate, because I think more and more people with COVID realised the importance of online. And also people realised that they were so far behind their competitors. And I think a lot of people used that COVID period to try and close that gap and better their businesses because they were working from home. They had staff in furlough and they're like, where do we, we need to do more of this online stuff. So I think for many of the digital marketers out there, they've probably done all right out of, the COVID situation. Sadly, I do know people that have worked in the travel industry, hotel industry, and stuff like that. And unfortunately, those guys have had a massive, massive impact, which is just horrendous. But touch wood, I've personally been fine. I don't really, I'd say I'm probably busier than ever, to be honest. So yeah, I think that goes for quite a lot of the other people I know in the industry as well. They've all been doing fairly well, other than the ones in those unfortunate niches.
Awesome. Good to hear. Good to know. Well, let's dive into some of the juicy stuff for website owners and publishers. We want to try and give them a strong strategy and a guide to SEO optimization, inbound links, ranking in 2021. So I'm going to jump straight into it with, what would you say are the top components that make a website search engine friendly today, or compatible, if you like?
In the eyes of Google. In the eyes of Google, obviously Google will tell you site speed. Technical is very important. Content is still really important. And I think link building is also really important. You can't really do any of these three. So it's all right for a guy coming to me saying my website's super fast and all that, but if you've no content, you ain't going to rank. Now, again, if you get super fast and you get content and you're not doing link building, of course you can go so far. But realistically, in the competitive niche, you still need that third element. So I think all three of those are really, really important, or the most important factors when it comes to SEO. I think content and links over the last 18 years that I've been in the industry have always been the main focus, of moving the needle or what Google really wants to see. But I think obviously technical, site speed, CRO, and everything else that goes into SEO is also very, very important. And I think you have to realise that, Google's evolving, and it's not just about content links anymore. You do have to focus on your websites being mobile friendly, websites loading fast, websites having the ability to have 10 users on the website at the same time trying to purchase a product or whatever it might be. So I think all of these things are equally important. You can't really do one without the other, because even if you do content links and your website looks crappy and it's loading slow and stuff like that, it's going to massively impact your conversions and whatnot. So, I think all three of those are important. Some people say certain things are important over others, and I think that's quite ignorant of people to do that. Content writers will tell you that content's the most important part. They all play a part with each other, and from the outside, sitting on the fence and saying, you have to do all three of those very, very well. Now, I want to say one last thing on this subject. Whilst I'm saying that site speed's important, I also see a lot of people who obsess with site speed, and they try and get their website loading from 1.2 seconds to 0.9 seconds and stuff like that. Now, at that point, I don't feel there's much of a difference in terms of what that's going to do in terms of Google ranking. I think having a website loading in under 2 seconds is fast enough. By all means, if you can get it loading in a second, even better. But I think people become slightly obsessed when it comes to core web vitals, site speed, and stuff like that. And that's taking them away from adding more content, doing keyword research, finding keywords that the competition's ranking for that you're not, and all of that kind of stuff. So I think you've just got to get the balance right and not become too obsessed with one thing. And the same goes for content. I see guys that go all out really aggressively with a content strategy, and they just don't have the link building or any of the technical stuff in place. And you're just like, you've went all out on content. You have to balance this stuff out. And the same with link building. People build links and go, why am I not ranking for this? And you're like, you don't have a page targeting that keyword. Like, how could you ever think you were going to rank for it? So again, just getting the balance right of doing enough of it all, and you'll be not far off the mark.
Thank you for that. So, I mean, you're an established website owner, right? Or a person who's an established website owner. They've got a certain set of tools at their disposal. They've got traffic coming in, etc. What about if you are fresh out the gate and you've just started your WordPress site, for example, and you want to move to monetization in the quickest possible time frame or manner? What would you say is a sort of a 3-step, 2-step guide to getting to profitability in the shortest possible way?
I mean, for me, if you're asking me how would I rank a website and make money online as quickly as possible, the first step I would be doing would be taking advantage of an aged domain name that already had a backlink profile. The reason for that is, you start from scratch. You are going to have to build foundational links. You're going to have to build a bit of trust and authority. You've got this potential sandbox if it does exist, and all that kind of stuff. So for me, if I wanted to make money quickly, and I still do this, I don't really start with fresh domains. I'm always looking for a good aged domain name. And when I say aged, I don't mean an expired domain name. I mean one that I get at an auction or buy off a guy or something like that, that's got reasonably powerful backlinks. Use a fairly aggressive content strategy, and you can make money very, very quickly. Now, people say how quick is quick. You can be making money in 2 or 3 months. If you use an aged domain name and you get your content on there relatively quick and you do your on page and stuff like that, you can be making money very, very quickly because of the power of that aged domain name and, going after middle of the road keywords. Obviously, you're not going to just shoot to the top for, the kind of most competitive keywords, but you find out very, very quickly that you can rank a website within 3-4 months quite easily and make some decent money. I buy and sell a lot of websites, and I'm buying websites that are content heavy that are making a little bit of money. And again, I just go in there and blast it with content links and try and flip the website within a 6 to 9 month period. So that's essentially what I do to try and get money very, very quickly. It's just try and utilize someone else's domain name and the power and authority that they've already got. And I think that's the fastest way to do it if you're looking to, avoid, starting from scratch or whatever. So that's a couple of tips there.
Awesome. Thank you. So I want to pivot for a second into paid advertising. So you've got a website, you've got a decent amount of traffic, and you want to start monetizing that traffic. Do you have any tips or suggestions for ad placement on site? I know it's very much dependent on the nature of the site, the content of the site, but are there some generalistic tips that you could share with us?
I mean, I think, when I'm starting out with any website, I think ads are really, really important at the beginning of any strategy. I also think ads is equally, right, so I'll start again. When I'm launching a campaign, I don't want to be solely reliant on Google for my income. I want to have SEO, paid ads, social media, whatever. I think having traffic from multiple sources is a very wise thing to do. But at the start of any SEO campaign, if I'm launching a new project, will I use paid ads? Yes. I'm looking to do this slightly from an SEO point of view, but also to get sales and conversions, of course. But from an SEO point of view, I'll explain this part first. Getting click-through rate and engagement on your pages from paid ads is going to help your page rank a lot better. So when I launch a page, a blog post, whatever it might be, I will potentially use Quora ads. I will use Facebook ads or any other type of ads that are low cost. Now, as an SEO guy, I can do Facebook ads and promote one of my blogs to an Indian audience, and I could spend something like $20 and get 10,000 people on that page. Now, what's the benefit of that? Now, massively, I'm just wanting eyeballs on my stuff, click-through rate, engagement on that page. Now, it doesn't matter to me whether they're Indians or not. Now, of course, they're not going to be buying anything, but from a ranking point of view, that's going to get me ranking, and organically, it's going to rank very quickly, and then I'm going to get the buyers on the website. So I think in terms of click-through rate manipulation, you can look at it, and you'll have to look at, where you're going to get the best bang for your bucks. Now, you can look at Google Ads, and of course, Google Ads work very, very well. There's no denying that. But obviously, the cost of Google Ads for certain things is, depending on what niche you're in, can cost a few quid. So from an SEO point of view, I'm looking for Quora ads because it's super cheap. You're getting it for a penny a click or whatever. And you can still become fairly targeted with your audience. And Facebook ads, again, using pixels, using data, retargeting people, following people around and getting the right people on your website can massively help you. But overall, I think, if you're paying for ad placements on people's websites, whether it's Quora ads, any other type of ads, Facebook ads, Google ads, Bing ads, whatever, as long as it drives relevant people to your website, I don't see it being a bad thing. And hopefully you can also not just target the Indian audience. I think for me, the Indian audience is good from an SEO perspective because a lot of the guys out there, love SEO and will read it, and, they will watch the video that's on the page and super engage with it. And for me, that's a low-cost way to get in that page ranking very, very quickly. But as I say, in terms of conversions, you need to make sure that you target the right audience where people are going to buy from you. If you're selling products, don't use the Indian audience. Try and target the right demographics where possible, as well, so that you do get the click-through rate and potentially, build your brand or get sales.
Mm. Oh, awesome. So let's say you're a website owner and you're at the absolute top echelon, the creme de la creme. You've got all of the right SEO protocols in place. Is there something extra? Is there that extra that maybe the public doesn't know about or doesn't think about that can take you just into the next ranking in terms of your monetization goals, in terms of your traffic reach, in terms of bringing in new traffic?
I mean, there's always extra that you can be doing. For me, when you do SEO can get you into the kind of top end of page one or whatever. Do I believe that in the top 3 results, so say I'm position 3 and I've got 2 guys above me, do I think it's a case of building more links and doing more on-page SEO? It's not. I do firmly believe that the guys that are in position 1, 2, and 3 are pretty much down to the engagement and the clicks and everything else that they get. So for me, I always try and do SEO properly till I get to the top end of page 1. And then what I'm looking to do is click-through rate manipulation and try and get more traffic. Now, when I said paid ads, you don't have to just use paid ads to get more people onto your website. You can use things like your push notifications, your email list, your organic social media audience, any source of traffic that you've got. If you can funnel them into that page, that is going to be the difference between you ranking in position 4 or position 1. Now, you've got to analyze the competition and see what else they're doing as well. Are they doing that, or are they organically getting all the traffic because they're in position 1? Yes, that's likely the case for a lot of guys that are sat in position 1. I've had many customers say to me, this guy's website's crap. Look at his content. How the hell can he possibly be in position 1? But because he got that position and he's organically getting all the clicks, Google's going to see that as the most relevant page for that search term. So why would someone else be able to overtake them? And unless you mimic the traffic that person's getting or force that to happen through paid ads and whatever else, then I think, that's where sometimes you can struggle to consolidate yourself into position one. So I think, CTR, it's not a new thing. People have been talking about click-through rate manipulation for, I think the first guy I ever seen was a guy called Dejan. He's an Australian dude, and he was talking about this stuff back in like 2009. And a lot of people look at click-through rate manipulation and just automatically assume you're talking about shady bots or some crappy traffic from somewhere or whatever. That's not what CTR manipulation is. I'm talking about trying to force the traffic and use the data that you've got, the pixel that you've got, and anything else that you've got to force people onto your pages. So that's what I would determine click-through rate manipulation. And I think that's the extra step that many people are not taking. But over and above that, I like to use tools like POP or Surf for SEO. They both pretty much do the same thing. And I think you have to match what the guys are doing that are on page one. And again, something I see all the time is people have a page and it's, say, 800 words long. Now, if you run Page Optimizer Pro or Surf for SEO and you see that everyone in the top page has got an average of 1,200 words and you've only got 800 and you're continuing to just build more links and everything else, I think you have to use these tools to analyze and look at it and say, right, I'm going to have to bite the bullet here and I'm going to have to up my game and increase the word count on here. Increasing the word count and doing what is working, Google's showing you what works in the top 10 search results. And it's showing you the average word count. It's showing you the words they use, the headers they use, and what keywords that their page is ranking for. And a lot of people also don't focus enough on trying to make a page rank. So a lot of people have got 20 keywords, a page ranking for 20 keywords. If you look at anyone with any decent content, they will rank for 200 keywords, 500 keywords, or whatever. So I think it's really important to analyze that stuff, looking at semantically related keywords, adding subheadings and more content so that you can squeeze as much juice out of that page as you possibly can. And again, I think that's something that you have to keep analyzing. Even if you are in position 3, what else can I add here to get more keywords? What else can I do to squeeze more out of this page? And again, I don't think people go that deep. I think when it comes to content strategy, I do a lot of training for agencies and whatnot, and I ask them, what's your content strategy like? Like what goes on? And I look at the process and they're just randomly saying to a content writer, yeah, for this client, go write, 5 1,000 word articles targeting this keyword, that keyword, that keyword. And that's all wrong. Who said it's 1,000 words? Whoever even said that? And, what about the structure of that content? What about the subheadings? What about the semantically related keywords? I think that's a massive, massive thing that many people are not doing. You've got to just continually analyze and improve. Don't just focus on adding more content, more blog posts all the time. Go back and better the content that's working for you. Make it better. Make it rank for more keywords. It's not about adding 5 blog posts a month or anything like that. Make sure that you do go back and the stuff that is actually making you money, make it better. So that would be my tip.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. So that's actually a good place to pivot for a second, going back to content for a minute. So do you have any guidelines or advice around keyword research in the purpose of making your content better on site, whether that be repurposing or creating from scratch? What is your keyword strategy?
I mean, you've got the tools out there, SEMrush and whatever. Again, look at the competition. Someone comes to me with a website. The first thing I'm going to do is use what is called the keyword gap analysis tool on SEMrush. And the reason for that is I want to see what I'm ranking for and what they're ranking for and find out what they're ranking for that I'm not ranking for. So you form a keyword gap analysis to find out what do I need to add to the website. So I'm going to do that, but also audit their current pages on the website and see where they're at, what they're doing, and compare that using, again, Surfer or POP and saying, right, let's compare this to the other guys in the top 10 search results and analyze every piece of content running through that tool. And that gives you suggestions, add more words, add these subheadings, potentially even add these FAQs and wrap it in schema so that you get the FAQ boxes on Google as well. So these tools are telling you what to do. You don't even need me to tell you what to do. If you've got the right tools, these tools are laying it out in a plate for you, basically saying, you don't have this, you don't have that, this guy's get this guy's get that. And that forms your content strategy, really. You're using multiple tools, but there's tools out there that are basically laying it out in a plate, and I don't know why people don't always use them. They're just like, oh, it's another tool that costs money, blah, 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 blah. I think Page Optimizer Pro costs about $40 a month. Now, if you're analysing top 10 search results, of course you can do that with your own eyes, but it's tedious, and you just press a button that scrapes everything and basically gives you a to-do list. That's it. And if you follow that and do that on a page-by-page basis, make sure that you're on, the current content is good, and then start working on a longer-term content strategy, trying to find those keyword gaps that your competition rank for that you don't. I think that's a good place to start. That's a basic content strategy right there. And obviously people have budgets, and content does cost money. You've just got to spend the money wisely on the keywords that you think will get you the most traffic as quickly as possible. So don't always go after the big keywords. Again, just pick off the easy wins and go for it. And if that's how you start to build up traffic and revenue for the client, then it's all about client retention as well. So you need to show client stuff fairly quickly. Even if it's just small steps, small quick wins, just to buy their trust and stuff like that. I think that's always a wise thing to do.
What is a fair budget as a starting out? If you're starting out on an SEO strategy, what would you say is a fair budget if you had to encapsulate content, keyword research, competitor analysis? What are you looking at? What would take?
I mean,
That's who you are.
That's one horrible question, but people that think you're going to get all of that for $500 a month are delusional, because the tools alone are going to cost you that before anyone has their expertise and reports back to you and stuff. I think you're going to have to start with at least a minimum of $1,000 for most areas. Now, of course, you could argue that doing local SEO in a real crap town, of course, you don't need to spend $1,000. You just need content and you rank, and that's it. But in general, you're probably going to need a minimum of $1,000 a month, I think, to even get some bare basics done. I see so many agencies or so many freelancers, and they charge their clients $200 and $300 a month, and you're just like, what the fuck are you actually? Oh shit, I shouldn't be swearing. But what the hell are you actually doing? For that money, like, what can you do for that money? Like, content, it's going to cost you a good 30, 40 quid for something reasonable for 1,000 words. And that's before you do anything else with it, before you add it to the website. That's your cost price. So you're like, at best, you could maybe add a couple of articles and, potentially do a bit of outreach, but realistically, you probably can't pay for a placement on anything. So, you've got to ask yourself the question, is there any point in even doing any work when you're charging someone that money? That's the thing, because you're not going to get anything that's tangible. You're not going to get anything that moves the needle. You'd probably be better sitting, not doing any work, and just telling the client it didn't work and just stealing his money, rather than charge so little for it. Because the way I see it is, I've got tools to pay for. I have got to then get content written. I'm not going to be sitting writing the content, so I've got to pay someone to do that. And it could, for a good content writer, it can cost about 6 cents a word for someone that's, able to actually spell properly. Of course, you can get it cheaper from, wherever, but it's the editing time and everything else that you'd have to fix. that you have to think about. So everything costs money, and it's a business deal. Can a business get a decent return on investment for a couple of $100 a month? Nah, I don't think so. I think you have to be at least spending 10%. So here's another figure I'm going to throw at you. If a business is turning over £1 million a year, if they want to get growth and have a reasonable marketing budget, they should be spending about 10% of that turnover, which is 100 grand, on their overall marketing strategy. That would be paid ads and whatever else they have to pay for. Now, their SEO, even if you were to do 24 grand, it'd be 2 grand a month, minimum, and that would be a quarter of their marketing budget gone. So that's for 2 grand a month, and I think that's fine. You don't want to spend the whole 100 grand on anything like that, but if you're spending that kind of money, at least you've got something to play with. Obviously, you've got ads and everything else that you can spend money on, maybe some PR, whatever. And I think, businesses out there, you get random local businesses, builders and stuff, and they turn over, say, 400 grand a year, and they expect to continue turning over 400 grand a year or get growth, yet they come to you with a £200 a month budget, which is what, £2,400 a year. The figures just don't add up. It's just not realistic to expect to spend £2,400 a year and get that level of return on investment. And that's just because most sensible businesses out there are spending 10% of their turnover on marketing. That's it. Job done.
And you got to spend it to make it at the end of the day.
Exactly. You've got to, I'm Scottish, and we're well known for being miserable with money. We don't like paying for things. I like free things. But you've got to, I hate paying for tools. I hate paying for content. I hate when it comes to payday and you've got to pay the staff. You're just like, man, I felt rich for a minute there, and then they're stealing it all out of your bank at the end of the month. But, as long as I'm getting a return on investment for that, I really don't care. It's all relative. If I need to spend £50,000 a month to make £100,000 a month, then why the hell would I not do that? And I think any sensible human being would be the same. I've had customers over the years who say, Craig, I don't mind paying you £1 million a year as long as I'm making 5. I'll pay you £1 million. I'll give you it right now. That's the mentality you have to have if you want to be successful. You can't be looking at it as a noose around your neck. From a client perspective, you've got to see this as an investment, and you've got to invest in the stuff that you need in order to compete. That's it. If I don't go to the gym, I'm not going to beat Arnold Schwarzenegger at a weightlifting competition. I've at least got to go to the gym and try and do something in order to beat that guy. But if I'm not turning up, there's no chance in the world I'm going to win. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing with their websites. They're just turning up and hoping for the best, and there's no underlying substance there to give them any chance of success.
Summarize, if you would, for us. You've mentioned a few already, but the tools that you use, your go-to tools, or what you think are go-to tools. If you want to separate them according to beginner, professional, you can, but what are the best tools out on the market today for everything we've spoken about?
I think, for keyword research, site audits and everything else, SEMrush is the all-in-one tool that I think any beginner, intermediate or advanced SEO should have. There's 40 plus tools within that that help you, but the site audit, it does everything: keyword research, keyword gap analysis, everything that I've mentioned is on there. Other tools, it depends. I mean, depends on your budget. You've got things like SiteBulb, which is really good for auditing and looking at your internal links and a whole bunch of other stuff. For a proper audit, SiteBulb is good. On page, I personally prefer Page Optimizer Pro, but you have Surfer SEO, which does the exact same thing. They're both great tools. I've just got a personal preference towards Page Optimizer Pro just because I've used it for so long, but nothing at all wrong with Surfer. And I think, auditing your content and getting the tips and advice from the tool on where you should be going with that content is really good. So that's another tool that you should use. But there are other tools out there depending on what you are trying to do. You've got tools like GT Metrics, which is free, which can check out your site speed and give you an idea of, some pain points in terms of speed there. Trying to think of some other tools that people can use. I've got so many tools that my mind's actually went blank. I think those ones are the ones that you need to consider to just to begin with. I don't want to confuse people either. I think between those tools would give you everything you need to start off a campaign. But there are tools out there that, there's SEO tools out all over the place that just dig a bit deeper and do very, very specific things. But I think SEMrush is probably the one that I would say to anyone, you have to have this tool or you're not doing your job properly.
Nice, Craig. Thanks. I want to jump back a few steps and talk about inbound links quickly. I wanted to see if you could just give our audience an understanding of what inbound links are, what the strategy is, what the effectiveness of inbound links are, and whether they're relevant today as they were previously.
So link building, of course, inbound links are links pointing to your website. The easiest way for me to describe that to someone who doesn't really understand it is it's like votes for your website. So the more votes you've got from for your website, the better it is looking for Google. Now, obviously, people over the years, link building is link building, and basically back in the day, it didn't matter where the link came from, what niche it was in, whatever. It was just a game of the most links won. And obviously, there comes a point where Google say, right, that can't happen because everyone's just building millions of links month on month on month. These days, Google are looking at relevance. So your links need to be relevant or semi-relevant to the niche you're in. But also equally, if I'm trying to acquire links, I want to have links that come from websites that do have traffic and rankings themselves. I believe that those links actually pass more value than some crappy PBN or some link or some website that's set up purely for link building purposes. So I do believe we're clever enough to establish a good link from a bad link. In terms of how you get links or what strategies should you use, there's many ways to get links. Even me doing this today, hopefully I'll get a link somewhere along the line. You can speak in webinars, speak at conferences, get involved in sharing information on blogs and stuff like that. And that can all be seen as link building. You can do PR. There's a lot of ways to use articles and press releases to get links. You can do outreach, reach out to other web owners and exchange links, exchange ideas, negotiate, do what you need to do. So there's a lot of different ways to get links. You just need to convince someone that you deserve a link in their website. And whether that's you delivering a talk, information, educational, whatever it might be, there's just so many ways that you can do that. You don't always have to pay for links or whatever. Being out there and putting yourself in front of camera or whatever can also help your link building efforts and just networking with people and talking to people who own websites. That's it. I know a lot of people go on about different types of link building strategies, guest posts. These are easy to buy. Now I know I'm not supposed to talk too much about black hat stuff, but what I will say is that even if I do outreach in the whitest hat manner, people out there will charge you a fee to get a placement on a website. Now, Google obviously tells you that you shouldn't be paying for links, but it's the nature of the game. People know the value of it and they are going to charge you a fee. Sometimes you can take someone out for a beer, whatever it's going to be. Just try and, avoid websites that have hundreds of thousands of links on them. I want links from websites that not every Tom, Dick and Harry has a link on. And that is what's going to set me apart from the competition. And whether I need to go on a webinar, whether I need to write content, whether I need to take the guy out for a beer to convince him to give me a link, whatever it takes. That's not black hat, that's just sensible. That's just what happens in the real world. So don't mix up, the kind of black hat. I mean, I think any sensible business will have a wide range of link building strategies, whether it's PR, whether it's outreach, whether it's this, that, or the next thing. And I think that's the most sensible thing to do, is just try and get links from as many different sources as you can, but keep them relevant. Make sure they're on websites that not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can get. If you see a website like BuzzFeed.com, for example, you can buy that in People Per Hour for $10 or something. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry really has a BuzzFeed link or a Market Watch link. They don't pass that much value. So even if the metrics, whatever you may look at, whether it's DA, DR, trust flow, citation flow, even if it's quite high, the fact that they've got probably several million outbound links means that any juice coming to you is very, very minimal, if anything at all. So that's what you need to bear in mind. Do not go after links that every guy is on. That's just not achievable. I think obviously getting a link from the likes of SEMrush, because I've participated in webinars and given a lot to their community over the years, is something that you're not going to get unless you spend a lot of time and effort doing that kind of thing. And I think that's where you have to look at, something that's not easily achievable, something that's you're going to have to work harder for, because that's going to move the needle a hell of a lot more than your BuzzFeeds and all the other garbage that's out there that you can buy for $10. So as I say, I don't want to go all black hat on you. Mix it up. Think outside the box. Try and not do any spam garbage. It really doesn't work in this day and age. And get stuff that your competition have not got the ability to get is the best way to look at it.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig. Speaking of black hat, actually, I mean, it helps to put it out in the light. Could you maybe briefly touch on a few black hat tactics that are prevalent today that, how should we say it, Google is aware of, search engines are aware of, and if you do them, chances are you'll get found out, so that people can avoid them, so that people can know what is in the clear, what is good, what is, arguably a little more on the darker side of SEO?
I mean, before I even answer this, I'm going to say I don't really believe there is a white hat or a black hat SEO. I think these terms are quite sloppy. I'll tell you why. Google tell you that you can't build a single link. John Mueller and various other people over the years have said things like that, trying to scare the masses out there. Yet Google have also released statements saying that link building is the number one ranking factor. So that's a contradiction right there. Now, obviously, Google do not want SEOs manipulating the system, which is why a lot of people think Google tells lies a lot of the time or misleads people and stuff like that. And of course, it's their job to try and protect the system from being rigged. Now, if you ever believe that Google just naturally rewards great content, you're delusional. That is delusion. If I'm a plumber and I write a great article about plumbing in London, for example, are Google going to get me links naturally and place that in position one without anything? Absolutely not. So these dreams of evergreen content ranking well and all that stuff, it's just nonsense. SEO is a game of manipulation. Google are well aware of it. In the casino niche, for example, they allow it because casinos are doing so much paid ads that they just allow these guys to bend the rules and use PBNs, expired domain names, and everything else. And in normal terms, using PBNs, expired domains, and everything is something that Google can detect and do penalize people for, and have penalized people for over the years. So you need to understand that Google allow certain things to happen in certain niches and don't allow things to happen in certain other niches just because they can. And that's where there's always this great debate of black hat, white hat. Do not go out and buy a whole bunch of PBNs and use that as your only SEO strategy. I think, you know, you've got to try and remain as clean as you can. You don't want to set up a business and not future-proof it and get slammed, wake up one day and, you know, your business is gone. But, you know, so you've got to manipulate to some degree. And people still use PBNs. People still use other things. You know, people buy guest posts and power these up with link building automation, which means that they're in turn not risking their own main website. So these are all things that can still work for you, but you really need to know what you're doing. Even PBNs and stuff can work for you, but it's harder. You've got to avoid leaving footprints. You've got to treat PBNs like the real websites. They've got to rank well. They've got to get traffic and stuff like that. So, you know, things that Google have penalised for can still work for you if you do them properly and avoid leaving any footprints. But do you want to set your business model up to potentially fail in 6 or 9 months' time when you get caught for that? Absolutely not. So the way I see it is I try and do everything as legit as I possibly can. Would I use a PBN here and there? Yeah, of course I would. Why wouldn't I? You know, it's only a very small proportion of my strategy. And I think that's where you have to play the game. And, you know, if that little bit of dark stuff has to be used for you to get into position 1, then I'll do it, but I'm not going to be over reliant on it. And I think, is that black hat? Absolutely not, because I think everyone in the world is doing it. Anyone that ranks in any competitive niche, they ain't sitting and Google are rewarding great content. They're building links, they're buying links, they're doing this or doing that. And sometimes these guys don't even know what they're buying. They've got an agency doing it and they're just doing black hat things, and they might think they're doing white hat and all that stuff. But for me, white hat SEO doesn't really exist. And I think black hat SEO is obviously dodgy spammers spamming the life out of everything. And these guys are never successful either. So I think you've just got to get a happy medium. And I think, you know, that's where I've referred to it as money hat. In the past at certain conferences, I'll do what it takes to win, but I want to try and look as clean as possible. And that's where I sit in the game. I'm not ever going to sit there and say, don't buy links, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. Because if I was to advise that, then I would have to ask myself, well, what am I advising people to do? And that would be absolutely nothing. Just sit there and hope for the best. So you've got to tweak things. You've got to do things and you know, take actionable advice from people, but be very, very careful of what you're doing and try and mix it all up the best you can and try and do everything as clean and as legit as you can, you know, for the majority of your marketing strategy, and then maybe just use it, the odd little thing here or there, as icing on top of the cake.
Are there any updates to the Google algorithm, the Google search engine, and others that we should know about? I know they keep them on the lockdown, and you know we don't know about future ones. But have there been any current updates to search criteria that have impacted the sector recently?
I mean, obviously the December update. So we years ago we had this update which was called EAT, Expertise, Authority, and Trust, which was for the medic niche. Now it made perfect sense for medic websites who didn't have an authorized persona to be given medical advice. You know, you can't just have people randomly giving out medical advice. So the medic update was a thing. I also believe that has been rolled out across the internet in general. So if you do have a persona who is an authority, whether it's SEO or whether it's in anything else, that does help you massively. So I think things like that, Google is always looking for proof or corroboration or other sources of information to prove that you are who you say you are and the information that you're saying is credible. So I think that has changed massively over the years and will continue to change. You know, even so, using me, for example, I am probably seen as an authority in the SEO industry because I've appeared at many conferences, I've appeared in many webinars, I've done a whole lot of stuff. So Google can kind of trust that information. Whereas if you set up a website and no one knows who's behind that website, there's no photos, no videos, no corroboration, are you going to get the same impact online as me? Probably not. And I think, I think that expertise, authority, and trust is rolling out to more and more websites. And I think we've seen with the December update that came out there, a lot of the websites that were slammed were faceless affiliate websites. They had no about page, they had no authority, no expertise. And I think that's where a lot of the guys that have come back from that update that have moved forward have worked on their own personal branding and put an about page up and tried to allow Google to corroborate information about these people. Now, the same goes for the likes of trying to trigger the knowledge panel and various other things. How do you get a knowledge panel? Well, you need to be cited on a whole bunch of other places in order for your knowledge panel to trigger. And again, Google is using corroboration to then ping that knowledge panel. So it would make sense for them to do that with websites as well. And I think you just have to become more in depth, work harder, and add some substance to your branding. And I think that's what you have to do for each and every website now. So the job is just becoming harder. And I think the reason for that is there's just so many faceless websites out there. I don't know how many million websites are added to the internet per day. But there's a lot of garbage out there, and Google needs to find a way to weed out the trash. And that's essentially what they're doing. So you need to make sure that you're not flushed out with that garbage, and you are saying, man, don't flush me away. I'm an authority. I'm active. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And I think that's the way you have to look at it.
Last Google question, quick one. If your site gets flagged and you get a warning or you get taken down, is there a process to get back online again? Is it quite tricky?
It's not tricky. It can be tricky if you don't know what you're doing, but you can submit a reconsideration request. So if you get manual action taken against you, they will tell you why that's been done, and they'll tell you to clean it up and then submit for reconsideration. Now, you do that, you get done. Can you bypass that? You can. I'm not going to explain how, because I don't want them to patch up that method, but there are ways to trick that into happening. And I'll just give you an idea of how that happens. You change the location settings or the targeting settings for your website in Search Console, resubmit that consideration request, which is going to be in a different language, and I'm not going to say which one, and it automatically goes through because it's not manually checked, and then you flick it back to targeting the country you're in again. So there is a loophole there where you can get it done very, very quickly. I'm not saying which country it is, because as I say, I don't want Google to patch it up, but there is massive amounts of flaws with Google, even to this day. People think that Google's clever, which it is, but there's so like. So I'll give you another example of a funny story. This has now been patched, but last year my Google My Business listing kept going down, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And I kept going in, and I kept seeing that someone had suggested that my business wasn't opened yet. So where it says opening date, they put it to like 2023, which instantly took my GMB down because Google seen that the business probably wasn't open until 2023. And you could literally go and suggest an edit and do that to anyone's GMB. Now, someone kept doing it to me for a joke, and I eventually kind of figured out what they were doing. And I'm like, geez. So I messaged a guy I know that works at Google, and I'm like, dude, like, I don't want to wake up every day and have to check all my GMBs. Like, you've got to patch this. This is frightening. That someone's got the ability to just wipe me out, like, without having to work hard for it. So they did patch that one, but there's so many holes in Google's system. And whilst there's SEOs out there, they will always be exploiting every last one of those holes. and taking it for all they can. And there's so many, I'm not going to mention them all on here because they'll all get patched up. But Google has massive, massive problems. They ain't anywhere near as clever as you might think. Glaring errors. So they're still there to take advantage of as well. But if you do take advantage of those and you get caught, you could be in a lot of bother as well, and potentially never recover. Because I think people I know that have exploited certain loopholes in Google that have been caught, their websites have never recovered. Never ever recovered. So be careful what you exploit is all I'm going to say. But yeah, just don't always think that Google, is this sophisticated super thing with no glitches or no holes in it. It is anything but sophisticated in a lot of ways.
Thanks, Craig. Enough said. I'll leave it at that. I've got one last question for you. Any developments, any big things to watch out for in 2021 in the sector of digital marketing, content marketing, affiliate marketing, SEO, search?
I don't think there's anything up and coming. That obviously you've got Core Web Vitals, which is has been put back until June. I personally don't think that's going to make a huge amount of difference to anyone at all. I think Google's already been looking at this for the past few years, but obviously, they are claiming to look at it in more in depth. So, research Core Web Vitals and stuff. But I don't really see that much changing. I mean, again, people always say what's new or what's coming up. SEO's not really changed that much since the early days. Obviously, the types of link building and the quality of link building or the quality of content or whatever always evolves. But I think, the core fundamentals have always been the same, and you've just got to just do better content, better this, better that, better links. And I think you just need to continue to do that and then embrace any updates that come out and just try and keep your ear close to the ground, listening to webinars and see what the general consensus is of those updates and adapt to your approach. I think if I was advising anyone, just do SEO with an open mind. Do not think you know it all. Try and embrace the changes and embrace the way that Google have to work and adapt your approach all the time. And you won't go far wrong. As long as you're doing the basics right, I don't see you going far wrong.
Craig, thank you so much. That's
no worries.
That's everything from me. Really appreciate the time, and I wish you a good day.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been good. Very good talk.